Welcome back. It's still Business Morning on Channels Television. Join today's conversation on Twitter. We're at BizMorning, at Channels TV, at Harriet Agbeni, and at Wilson Business. Of course, you can also send us an email to businessmorning@channelstv.com. Now, there's been an uptick in the energy commodity index with a weekly positive change of 0.24%, bringing the year-to-date change to about 12.53%. Ada Akonobi, analyst with the Economic Research Unit of Financial Derivatives Company, joins me now to take a look at these numbers. Good morning, Ada.
Good morning.
Well, oil prices are up 0.24% week on week. What's responsible for the uptick?
Yes, oil prices have in fact increased. This is as a result of the reduced U.S. crude inventories. And the reason that this U.S. crude inventories are reduced is because of few drilling activities in the region. So, and again, the doubt on the Iraq sanctions, there are possibilities that the meeting might not go as planned. So this has actually reduced the supply glut. This has actually eased the supply glut that was earlier forecasted.
But there's still a strong demand for U.S. oil.
Yes, of course, there's actually a strong demand for U.S. oil as there's an improved economic growth. So there's a lot of demand for oil all around now.
Let's talk about the soft commodities. The prices are trending north. What's responsible for the increase? Let's talk about corn, for instance, seen a 1.99% increase to about $3.72 per bushel.
Corn prices are in fact increasing as well as other commodities, mainly because of weather conditions. For example, wheat and corn, the U.S. is currently facing some weather challenges. There's dryness in some areas and there's wetness in some areas. However, Australia and the Eurozone might in fact see some precipitations which will lead to better supply of these products in the future.
Still, talk to us a little bit more about the soft commodities. Cocoa, for instance, cocoa prices are up 0.03%, and there's still a shortfall in production from Ghana. Has this affected Nigerian companies that rely on this product?
Cocoa prices are in fact increasing as the output from Ghana is reducing. Ghana forecasted to produce about 850,000 tons of cocoa this year, but however, they've only produced 700,000 tons of cocoa and are still struggling with its production. This shortage of production is due to bad weather conditions, to old trees, and as well as cocoa farmers migrating into mining, and as well as the devaluation of the Ghanaian currency. However, Ivory Coast as well, which is one of the top 4 exporters of cocoa. In fact, the first exporter of cocoa is currently experiencing some flooding. So all these are putting pressure on the output of cocoa, as there's a lot of demand from emerging Asian markets and the USA. So this, if the prices of these commodities continue to go up, this will affect countries that import these products because they would tend to buy this at a more expensive rate, and they might probably pass these prices down to the consumers, making chocolate products more expensive.
Yeah, I remember you said that the last time we had the conversation. Well, quickly now, your outlook for today's trade or for the rest of the week.
The future for wheat and corn might be better as if the weather conditions ease enough. Like I said earlier, there might be rains in the EU region and in Australia. And for cocoa, we are not really sure as to how the output will be. But hopefully there will be more output production. Then for the oil prices, the NNPC has in fact reduced the premium from 50 cents to 23 cents to try and fight for market share. And if this is done, it will increase the demand and as well as increase supply, which will affect the government revenue positively.
Well, thank you so much, Ada, for your time and for the perspectives on those numbers as well. Ada Akonobi is a research analyst with the Economic Unit of Financial Derivatives Company. Well, we're talking about commodities, and the House of Representatives plans to investigate alleged malpractices by the NNPC, that is the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, over crude oil swap contracts with some oil trading companies. And that's another big story on our radar. Bosun Omofaye, co-anchor and business news editor, joins me now to talk more about this development. Bosun, first and foremost, no chocolates for you because the weather is disturbing production in Ghana. So
now you need a cup of coffee. This is the time to go East Africa and get the what you call the what's it called, the Rubika coffee something.
So that is where I'm going to hold you now, Bosun. You can't get coffee, you can't get chocolates.
Coffee is on the list. It's not on the prohibition list.
It's on my prohibition list for you. But also on the list for the House, the radar of the House of Representatives is a very big story.
No, the National Assembly looks set to start from where the money is. And it looks like, yes, this is very serious business. It looks like that was where we finished off the last National Assembly over the PwC report about the NNPC. The SHU refund $1.84 billion to the Federation account. Report says that hasn't been done over the last few days. So it looks like we have a continuum here about where the money is. The government solely needs money. So therefore, what the House of Reps talking about is very serious business. But let's start as usual looking at the oil stocks on our market. A little bit of a tepid Wednesday for the market. Let's bring the first set of information to your TV screen now to show you where those energy prices are finished off on Wednesday. Sorry, folks, that's the wrong one there. We'll try to replace that. Forty Oil, the oil trading firm that's always lead in terms of price advances, went negative 0.35% on Wednesday. However, Mobil continue to ramp up is Tuesday's climb. Okay, thank you, guys. 3.61% to the north. MRS remained flat on the radar, while Owando clawed back about 1/10 of its previous prices on the back of 3.091 million ordinary shares. Total and Seplat Petroleum in the red, while Conoil finished off a negative 2.39%. So if you squeeze the gainers and the losers in that segment of the market together for Wednesday, what you come up with is what you will see next. That's the daily return for that sector was about 0.09%. Still, year-to-date, a negative 8.2%. Price to earnings ratio 8.5 against broader market 10.0, while dividend yield still at 3.1%. Now, getting back to the big story, what the House of Reps ordering a new set of probe into the crude for petrol swap deal with 7 oil and gas firms, as reported widely in the media today. You find the names on your TV screen. Duke Oil, Mercuria, Altero, Glencore, Talaveras, Antenna Oil and Gas, Transfigura, and Ontario Oil and Gas. These were those that were alleged to be involved in the oil for crude for a petrol deal, or petrol imports, as it were. A few of them had, in the last few weeks, in the media says they didn't do anything wrong. There was nothing opaque about that deal. Now the House of Reps is stepping into that. But looking at how the math was done yesterday, and the social media has been very busy this morning about this mathematics, as the legislators put it yesterday. Now, what the deal is about, 445,000 barrels per day was what the NNPC allegedly gave to these oil firms as crude oil, in exchange that these oil firms will import petrol into Nigeria. So you do the math down there by the House of Reps. So 1 barrel of oil, they say, should fetch us 159 liters of petrol, or PMS. If you multiply that by 445,000 barrels per day, that gives you 70.755 million liters of petrol per day. Nigeria consumes 40 million barrels of, 40 million liters of petrol every day. Correction there, 40 million liters of petrol. So the question is, where is the balance if that was the math? That leaves, if you do the simple math there, you still have about 30 million liters of petrol missing there. So looking for that in the entire mix. Let's try and get a bit of a 1 minute conversation on this from energy analyst, the head of energy research at EcoBank Development Corporation, Dolapo Oni. Good morning to you.
Hi, Bosin. Good to be here.
Oh, thank you very much. Sorry to drag you out of the stock exchange oil and gas interactive session you folks are having today with Bloomberg and the others in the NSC and your folks there from the oil. Talk to us about this oil crude for petrol swap. Does one barrel of oil translate into 159 liters of petrol?
Well, not directly, because one barrel of crude oil would actually, give you a lot more other products. But typically, the way the swap works is that NNPC only asks the oil companies or the swap guys to actually bring back just PMS, HGO, and kerosene. So in terms of what the conversion rate is for those products, it's roughly about around 159 liters.
Okay, so we'll do the simple math. So if we go if we go down the road of the House of Reps for now, because it looks like if this probe takes place, a lot of guys will have to come forward, step forward, and provide their own version of the story. So if that translates about 70.7 million liters of petrol per day. We consume 40 million liters per day. Where is the balance of 30.7? Do you know?
Yeah, Watson, I think that may be a bit of a rough calculation, saying 70 million liters. I think where the sort of might be missing it is in the fact that I think the 159 liters that is expected in the barrel, that's a combination of both the PMS, the diesel, and the kerosene as well. So if we're talking about 70 million liters, it's a breakdown. It should be sort of broken down into also PMS, diesel, and kerosene. And of course, then we know Nigeria only consumes about 43 million liters of gasoline, and then about 19 million liters of diesel and kerosene. So that should be roughly about 20 million liters.
Okay, sorry, Dolapo, the conversation begins to get patchy. We understand the location where you are, telephone conversation, internet, those access there could be a little bit scrappy. One question for you, but then we'll keep that. Those oil firms weren't refiners in the first instance, so why give them crude in exchange for petrol? In one word.
Essentially the idea was that instead of the NNPC having taking on the responsibility of taking the crude to the various refineries around the world, these refiners or these oil companies rather who engage in the crude swap had a relationship with refineries in various parts of the world who would be able to offer them better refining margins, better refining products or end products with those crude oil. So they'll be able to swap it and actually make some margins for themselves also too. So that was why this relationship actually started. But then again, don't also forget, it wasn't the entire 445,000 liters that's also given out to these guys, because some of it still goes to the refineries, even though their capacity was below 20%, but to some extent, some of it is still refined locally, and then some portion of it is now taken outside. But I think where the sticking point really remains the fact that how the mathematics is done between what is actually given to the companies and what they are brought back, what they bring back. Okay.
Thank you very much. Let's stay with where the sticky points are. Thank you very much, Dolapo Oni, Head Energy Research at EcoBank Development Corporation. Handing over back to Harriet here in the studio.
Well, thank you so much, Wilson. Of course, I know you're back at the later part of the program for us to continue to talk more about the energy market and, of course, power. Well, in the last segment, as I said, we'll focus on the energy power sector. Now, coming up next, fiscal management in Nigeria and plugging the loopholes. Welcome back. You're watching Business Morning on Channels Television. But just before we start the conversation on fiscal management and plugging the loopholes with Odelim and Wegbara, development economist, we're trying to sort out some issues, some technical issues there. But Bolson is still here with me in the studio. Bolson, let's quickly, chat to the conversation where you left off with Dolapo, talking about these companies are not refinery companies.
Yes.
And they, take this much of
bigger
crude,
relationship.
but they have
with
relationship
the refiners in Europe, largely where we do most of our refining, and this is how much you get. A barrel of crude gives you petrol, gives you engine oil, gives you kerosene, gives you a bit of diesel as well, and whatever. So it's like a palm tree. Sorry, I grew up on the farm, so then you get so much from it.
Oh.
Okay, therefore, it's not enough to get palm oil from a palm tree. Then you get palm wine.
So, but we're talking about fiscal management.
A lot of others. Now, you're going to talk about the loopholes and what have you here. Now, where Dolapo of Ecobank finished off was, okay, the sticky point is, what happens to the differential? Now, this probe by the House of Reps should bring everybody to the table. The 7 oil firms, very good, you have their names up in front, so we need to bring them into the hall, on one side of the hall, and the other side of the table to have the NNPC, and at the head of the table, you would have the perhaps the Joint House Committee on Investigation or on Petroleum or whatever.
When they eventually set
then say, okay, fine, can we have all the figures on the table and show us at what rate? Perhaps the refining firms where those deals were done overseas, show us the papers that you guys got XY amount of crude from Nigeria, and that was what you totally handed over to the refineries in Europe. Perhaps it's a different thing, perhaps, if they collected 1,000 barrels per day. Was that the total of crude oil that they handed over to the refiners? Perhaps on the high seas, perhaps something's happened, and the refineries overseas didn't get the total amount. So they refined what was given to them. So if you gave 445,000 barrels per day, and perhaps 100,000 was what was delivered to the refineries, we'll need to find out. Now, these are overseas. Then you now begin to say, okay, fine, when you finish refining, at what rate do you refine and what was brought back to Nigeria? If the refineries actually loaded 100,000 liters, 100 million liters, whatever, onto the vessels, those liters of petrol, oil, gas, whatever, kerosene gets to Nigerian shores.
Okay.
Now, that's where the sticky points are.